This video will show you how to do the problems on page 34 out of your math book. So since they didn't allocate very much room right up here, what I went ahead and did is for the problems where we're supposed to write the expression in standard form for these problems, I just rewrote them on this page so that I would have more room for it, okay? But of course you can choose to write them on a separate sheet of paper. Just make sure you put the proper heading and make sure to include this information, all right? Okay, so write the expression in standard form. So when I see it right now as it is, I see that there's parentheses and there is a coefficient outside those parentheses. I see that there's a number right outside of it, you know. So what I would need to do when I see those parentheses, I would need to use the distributive property. And when you're using the distributive property, you need to distribute that number, the number, or if there's a symbol out there, you need to distribute that symbol all the way through and multiply it by everything inside the parentheses, okay? So I rewrote A right down here. And the way you would say this out loud is 1/4 times the quantity of 4 times x plus 8. So like I just mentioned, you need to use that distributive property because see right outside the parentheses you have a number right here. It's a fraction and that's still a number, so you need to use the distributive property. So 1/4 times 4x. And some of you, right at first, that may not seem as straightforward to you, so I'm going to just kind of use a little space right here just to kind of show you what this looks like. 1/4 times, parentheses means multiply, 4x. Okay? So what I'm seeing right here is I see a fraction, I'm multiplying it by this number, 4x, 4 times x, and I want to put it over 1 so that when you multiply fractions, you just go straight across. So 1 times 4x is 4x. 4 times 1 is 4. So this should be a common thing that you've seen before, and you see that there's 4 divided by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 1 times x is 1x, or x. So 1/4 times 4x is really 1x or x, same thing. Okay, that's a 1. So now I need to go 4 times this plus 8. So just to kind of illustrate that over here to the side, to give you a better view of it, 1/4 times that positive 8. And again, I'm multiplying a number, a whole number by a fraction, so I'm going to make that whole number look like a fraction. And you know that 8 divided by 1 is still 8, so I haven't changed this number at all. So 1 times 8 is 8. 4 times 1 is 4. And I have right here 8/4. That simplifies down to 2. And if you're like, how did she get that? It's really 8 divided by 4, which is 2. Or you can write 2 over 1, same thing. But we typically write it just as 2. So 1/4 times a positive 8 is a positive 2. And that right there is that basically simplified, okay? All right, on to problem B, and that says 1/6 times the quantity of r minus 6. So same exact situation where you see parentheses and you see that there's a number right outside of it, so you need to use the distributive property. So I gotta go 1/6 times r, and that is just 1/6 r. Again, I like to make sure I do the arrow just to remind myself that I need to multiply. So 1/6 times r. And then I have 1/6 times a negative 6. And if you have any issues just kind of visualizing that, feel free just to write it on the side right here. We got plenty of room. 1/6 times that negative 6. And again, you got this number right there and you got a fraction, so I want to make that number appear in fraction form. So 1 times negative 6 is negative 6. 6 times 1 is 6. Negative 6 divided by 6 is negative 1. Okay? So that's what I'm going to have right here, negative 1. Now it'd be totally cool if you wrote negative 6/6, because that's still negative 1. That simplifies to the same thing, so that's equivalent. But right there, that's my answer. And that's why I circled it. Okay, so letter C. The way you'd say this out loud is 4/5 times the quantity of x plus 1. Again, you see parentheses, you see that there's something right outside of it, so you want to use the distributive property and multiply it by everything inside that parentheses. So I have 4/5 times x, and that's just 4/5 x. And now I got 4/5 times 1, positive 1. And anything times 1 is just itself, so 4/5 times a positive 1 is a positive 4/5, like that. I'm going to go ahead and circle that. All right, letter D is next. And I actually wrote that up here. Okay? So to say this out loud the proper way, don't say 1/8 parentheses 2x plus 4. You want to say it accurately. You want to use mathematical vocabulary that you've been practicing. So 1/8 times the quantity of 2 times x plus 4. Okay? So 1/8 times 2x, and just to kind of visualize that a little bit better, I'm going to write it up to the side right here. 1/8 times, I'm just going to go 2x like that. And just like we've been doing previously, make that in its fractional form. So 1 times 2x is, sorry about that hole right there, 2x, that's a 2x. And then 8 times 1 is 8. So 2x eighths is the same as, let's go ahead and simplify it. What's the number that goes into both 2 and 8? Well, 2 goes into both. So this could also be written as, so divide by 2, divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4, so we can have it as 1/4 x. If you wrote this one down or this one down, it's the same exact answer, okay? Because they simplified to the same thing, so it's still correct. So the way that you could write this one down is you can write it as 1/4 x. And then, let's go ahead. Or I could have written it as, like I said, 2/8 x. Because 2/8 simplifies to 1/4. As just standard, as a standard thing, I do want you to simplify it all the way, but if you did write this down, that would not be incorrect, okay? Unless the directions specifically said to simplify it all the way down or something. Okay, anyway, back to this. 1/8 times 4, so I'm going to write that over here. 1/8 times 4, I'm going to put 4 in its fractional form. 1 times 4 is 4, 8 times 1 is 8. So I could write as positive 4/8. You should know that 4/8 simplifies to 1/2. So you could write either one, it's going to be right. And that would be positive, what is it, 1/2. Or if we weren't simplifying it, we could write positive 4/8. Same thing, okay? Those are both okay to write. All right, the next problem is letter E. 3/4 times the quantity of 5x minus 1. Okay, I have that fraction out here acting as its coefficient that I can multiply by everything inside the parentheses. So 3/4 times 5x, and if you can't, if you have trouble visualizing that, please always feel free to write it down to the side. Okay, and we'll put that 5x in its fractional form. 3 times 5x is 15x. 4 times 1 is 4. That doesn't simplify, I mean, it does if I wanted to make it a mixed number, but I'm going to keep it as an improper fraction. So that's 15x fourths, or I could say 15/4 x, same thing. Then I got to go 3/4 times that minus 1. So to visualize that. Okay, make that -1 as a in fractional form. 3 times -1 is -3. 4 times 1 is 4, so it's -3/4. 3/4, like that. Okay, that doesn't simplify either, so that's what I got. Okay, for the last problem on this page, to say it out loud properly is 1/5 times the quantity of 10 times x minus 5, quantity closed, minus 3. So as we've been doing, you see parentheses right there, you got to use the distributive property and multiply that outside number, or if there was a symbol there, you would multiply that by everything inside the parentheses, okay? So for now, I'm going to ignore that minus 3 just for now, okay? So I got to go 1/5 multiplied by 10x, and as I've been doing, I'm going to write it up here so you can see it. Okay, and put it in fractional form, make it easier on yourself. 1 times 10x is 10x. 5 times 1 is 5. Let's simplify that. A number that goes in both 10 and 5, I'm going to divide by 5, divide by 5. That would be 10 divided by 5 is 2, don't forget the x. And then 5 divided by 5 is 1, so 2x. That's what it simplifies to. If you wrote down 10x fifths, that's cool. Same thing. But I do want you to get in the habit, like I said, to simplify it. 2x, and I don't have to put the over 1. You can if you want, you don't, it's not necessary. Okay, then you got to go 1/5 times that minus 5. So I'm going to write that off to right straight up here. Okay, and put it in its fractional form. 1 times -5 is -5. 5 times 1 is 5. Simplify that. You can do it. Negative 5 divided by 5. A number that goes into both is 5. So that would be negative 1 over 1. So that's just really negative 1. Okay. And now you just bring down that minus 3. Okay? Just down like that. You don't you dare multiply it. That is no-no, because it's not inside the parentheses. So from here, folks, you just got to simplify it. You got the constants right here. Minus 1, minus 3. So basically negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. Bring down your 2x. Simplify it. That's simplified. Okay? So that's your answer. Okay, bye.